Hey everyone, it's Sunday today, so that means it's time to sit down and chat all things ChatGPT and generative AI and catch up with the news in the week. Now, the first thing that I want to talk about is the actor strike that's going on in Hollywood right now. So we have the actor strike and the writer strike. And part of the stipulations for the strike and part of the concern from both of these parties are that AI is going to come in and take jobs from the writers and jobs from the actors. Now, one of the things that we've seen in some of the articles that have popped up and some of the union's demands are the use of AI when it comes to acting. And I find it really incredible already that we're talking about that some producers are wanting to do a full scan of a background extra, give them $200, and then use that image in perpetuity. So this is something that has popped up. Of course, I'll put in the links from the articles that I've read into the description of this video. But yeah, I think this is a huge moment for actors to understand what is your image worth. This is something, business related. Of course, you can do a lot of cost reductions by scanning extras, giving them 200 instead of paying them full day rates of the sets that they are in. But I also kind of have to wonder about some of the quality of what's going to come, from movies. I mean, we already see sometimes that human extras aren't that fantastic anyways, like we saw in Quantum Solace. And we've seen it already. If you've seen the last Indiana Jones movie, you've seen that they have digitally reconstructed Harrison Ford to be younger than he is. So it's going to be interesting to see what takes place in this regard and what we're going to see from the entertainment industry. Now, if you're thinking, okay, this sounds a bit future-fetched and far-fetched, we're already seeing it in action. So move over Harrison Ford. Let's talk about how a startup in San Francisco has come up with an AI-generated episode of South Park. So if you, of course, I'll put the link in the description, but if you look at their site, they have literally come up with an entire version of South Park using ChatGPT 4, a variety of plugins, and voice clone technology. You can really see the possibilities with AI systems. And what does that mean for content itself? I think the other thing that we need to be wary of is not just content and entertainment being generated from this technology, but also deepfakes. So a user on Reddit has posted a hyper-realistic deepfake of Tucker Carlson complaining about the FPS drops in Call of Duty. So if you watch it, the speech is bang on. The mouth movement is a little bit off. But yeah, it's something that dare I say, come election seasons, this is going to be something very interesting to see. So I understand why actors, unions, content creators, writers, etc., are having a moment of this is an existential crisis for us. I'm wishing that those talks go very smoothly and that actors and writers get their due compensation and their demands are approved. Now, in some regulatory news, the White House says that Amazon, Google, Meta, Microsoft have agreed to AI safeguards. And what that means is that 7 of the major AI companies have made voluntary commitments to develop testing systems to regulate AI security and capabilities before releasing them to the public. So these companies include Inflection, Anthropic, OpenAI, Microsoft, Meta, Google, and Amazon. Now, with all of that being said, this does come after the FTC has issued a 20-page investigation for OpenAI. Of course, I'll post the link to these juicy 20 pages in the description. But essentially, the FTC has said to OpenAI that they would like to see how their systems have been trained, what sorts of things have they done to mitigate any of the potential liabilities and damages from false output. In addition to the training data, some of the steps that they have taken to retrain their model. Now, while we talk about America and the FTC, we also need to go to our friends in the East in China. And there have been some articles that indicate that Chinese governments and authorities have mandated that AI must follow the core values of socialism. So before any AI model is released to the public in China, authorities have mentioned that they would like that these models are in agreement in agreement with the fundamental values of Chinese society, and that all of the training data, all of the training information and the algorithms are approved by authorities. So this is also really interesting when it comes into play with the global context of regulations and AI. Now, in some regulatory adjacent news, it was interesting because I was asked to speak at the Australian Business in Europe Network event, and one of the questions that I had during the Q&A is, so if AI can speed up some of the work, does that mean that we might have more time, more free time? And it's such an interesting question. Even now I'm like, yeah, the cynical person in me is just like, no, it's going to make, our workload, it might increase our workload, or it might make us more productive and have more output with the hours of work that we do. Now, it is interesting because CNN Business has published an article on this in which they detail out how workers disagree that AI is supposed to make our lives easier, but instead it has doubled our workload. Now, I will post this article in the chat, of course, but it is interesting because I feel like we're right now kind of in the rosy summer of AI, where those, if you know, or if you use AI, you're one of the ones that have been able to decrease some of your workload and some of your tasks and allow for more thought capital, allow for more creativity. However, I think as this becomes widespread adoption, this will change. In other news that has been happening in the last 2 weeks, we saw Facebook announce and release their Llama version 2 to everyone. And they've made it available through the Microsoft Azure cloud. Now, what does this mean when it comes to Meta releasing a large language model? What they intend to do is to make this an open source large language model. So like ChatGPT, you would have this available to everyone, and then everyone can download Meta's large language model and then be able to tweak it with their own data or just tweak it for their own needs and uses. So something like that, you could download it, you could then adapt it completely to your company for its own needs. Now, although this has been released and some key folks from Meta have saying that it is open source, it's not entirely open source yet. And what I mean by open source is, how you have like Android operating system as open source, people can use it and tweak it, etc., etc. It's not quite there yet, but it is released. Now, we have some other articles that have chatted about this, that have written that it could be a major challenger to OpenAI. Now, the risks for it, we're not entirely sure yet. I think one of the risks for me is, do we know, is it a complete offline large language model? So none of the data that we're inputting for training or that we're inputting gets sent back to Meta for their own data uses. And then the other would be the risks of this kind of going into the hands of the wrong people, like, organizations of terror using this for their own devices. So this is the thing that I'm kind of, a little bit like, maybe this is where I'm seeing, kind of the stranger danger of this. Some people on Reddit have used it, and they are saying that they're still going to stick with ChatGPT and OpenAI because they're not, completely sold on this. So one user put in who is a current Premier League champion, and they came back with this might reinforce negative stereotypes and perpetuate harmful gender binary norms. Huh? Okay, anyway, so you can see that it is fraught with a bit of errors. One asked, another Reddit user asked for coding, and it came back with Mike can be perceived as derogatory. Yeah, so it's out. It's out there. Okay, now to turn away from Meta, we also saw some news that Apple is secretly building its own rival to ChatGPT. I think most people are like, okay, great, another one in the mix. But for myself, and I think a lot of people as well, are thinking like, okay, we don't really care. That sounds great. Give us a better functioning Siri. Let Siri play my music without having to have an Apple Music subscription. So yeah, you go Apple, that's awesome. AppleGPT, go for it. Just make Siri better, please. That's all that we care about. Cool. Okay, and some other news that I've come across, I'm not sure how factually correct it is. I've seen a lot of news articles talk about it. I'd like to see a confirmation from him, but we have heard that the co-founder of Google is going back to work to create a ChatGPT 4 competitor. He's at the helm to try and publish something called Gemini, which would be Google's version of ChatGPT 4, which to me is a bit confusing because they have already released Bard. Where he's coming in and why he's coming in is because that I think that they're worried. Google's worried that they're falling behind in the AI arms race, and really, it's the speed is kind of the key necessity here. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see if he is going to be a part of the AGI conversation. I'm curious about this, and I think really the founder of Google coming back to work instead of just being on a yacht, doing his Leonardo DiCaprio thing with models and like sailing around the world, shows that there is a huge sense of urgency here. Now, in some ChatGPT news this week, really exciting announcement that OpenAI has released that they are rolling out custom instructions for ChatGPT. So what this would mean is that you can then specify to ChatGPT the output that you want, or the type of output and the style of output that you want. And I think this is really exciting because, for myself, I've developed a prompt about psychological safety training, and it took some time to really tweak like how exactly I wanted the output. So you don't have to do the simulation exercise over and over and over again. Now, unfortunately, this is not released yet in the UK and the EU. So I will, once I get a chance to play with this, I will definitely, show you and demonstrate and see how it goes. Now, the other exciting thing about the news that came out this week for ChatGPT and the updated model is that for Plus users, we now have 50 messages per 3 hours. So before, with ChatGPT Plus and ChatGPT 4, we had 25, we were able to put in 25 prompts every 3 hours, and now that's been doubled in size, and now we can do 50 every 3 hours. So that is fantastic. That makes making these videos and just having fun and exploring, just a lot more. I'm able to do a lot more, and that's nice. The other announcement is that apparently ChatGPT is coming to Android. So the official application is coming to those that use Android phones. So that is wonderful, fabulous, cool. We can then put in all of our messages from Tinder and get responses for it, so we don't have to think, oh my gosh, that's awful. I'm advocating for people to do basically just like do your dating through ChatGPT. Don't do any of the labor. Yikes. Okay, anybody that I'm dating that is watching this, I'm kidding. JK. Now, of course, it is time for the Reddit Roundup to round off the video. One of the first things that I'm seeing that's very interesting pop up on Reddit from time to time is that people with very low coding experiences are making their own video games. So this is just another example of somebody who has made coding, and their character just died there. Oh, condolences. But so they have used only a ChatGPT plugin, have coded some things, and made a game for the Roblox studio. So this is pretty cool. There are some other examples on Reddit as well for somebody, people, with very low coding experiences making their own video games. So this is something very interesting. I think also very interesting for like kids, and like if I was a teenager right now, like if I was 12 years old today, I would be, I wish, oh my gosh, I wish I'd be creating video games and blah, 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 blah. So anyways, really cool. I think for those with children that the children are interested in video games, I would definitely maybe show them a little bit like this and just inspire their creativity for creating. I think this is so neat. Anyways, next up on the Reddit Roundup, a girl gave me her number and it ended up being GPT. So oh God, this is modern dating now. This is modern dating. So yeah, I wonder if somebody's created a hotline that is just like, you give this fake number in and it goes straight to ChatGPT. So yeah, this is the sick and twisted dating world that we're living in. God bless. In other Reddit Roundup news, it is interesting that there is still discussion about GPT-0, zero GPT, about that you can't necessarily trust AI writing detectors, that sometimes they're not always correct. One of the examples as well is that if you put the US Constitution into an AI detector, it will say that it is completely generated by AI, and I can just imagine that it takes things that it was trained on except like I feel like there's probably some sort of false thing in which it thinks that things that it was trained on is generative output, and that's the issue. Now the other thing, last point, is ChatGPT rival with no ethical boundaries is being sold on the dark web. So oh gosh, yeah, like I mentioned before about the risks of Meta's Llama, falling into the wrong hands. Well, nope. Here we go. So yeah, that's that. Yeah, that's it for the Reddit roundup this week. And lastly, in my own personal life, as mentioned earlier in the video, I was invited to be a keynote speaker at a Australian business in Europe, the Netherlands, dinner. So it was really wonderful. I really have to say my gratitude and thank you so much to all that was involved in organizing, especially Sally, Judith, and Jacinda. Yeah, thank you so much for involving me. It was really wonderful. A lot of really good conversation and a lot of really good questions. I think, speaking about ChatGPT, speaking about generative AI to business leaders, it's just inspiring to kind of see where people's minds are at, so the questions, the insightful questions that they want to know more about, and also to just sharing knowledge. So I really have to, again, just extend my gratitude to Sally and Jacinta for involving me in this. So that was super cool. Look, there's me with glasses, and there's me with the ambassador, the Australian ambassador to the Netherlands. Oh my gosh, how cool. I mean, come on. Anyway, so I'm going to stop geeking out. I'm going to wish everybody a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Thank you so much for watching my video, and have yourself a great day, morning, afternoon.